Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, you're welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, you're welcome as well. In today's tutorial, we're going to learn how to make a princess dart corset. So if this is something that interests you, kindly watch this video to the end, and please subscribe to my channel, give this video a thumbs up, and also share with your friends and family. Please subscribe and watch the ads. So right here is my pattern paper. Okay, I've gone ahead to mark all of the lines. Here is my starting point line, here is my chest line, here is my bust line, here is my under bust, and here is my waist line, and here is the allowance. So I added extra 1 inch allowance to this place. So the next thing is to determine half of my nipple to nipple measurement, and mine is going to be 3.5. Mine is 7 inches, so half of it is 3.5, and I'm going to mark that 3.5 from the waist up to my bust line. So I'll go ahead now and mark it together. The thing is to mark the 1 inch shoulder slope, okay, and mark 3 inches as the neck width, which is a standard. So I'm going to connect it together. So after that, I'm going to determine the midpoint of our armhole, and I'll also mark the midpoint. I'll also go in by 1/2 inch. So once that is done, I'll mark the quarter of my bust so that I can take the armhole curve. So right here, I've taken the armhole curve. On the bust line, I will go up and come down by 1/2 inch at the bust line. Okay. So once that is done, I'll go ahead and take 1 inch at the under bust area on both sides of my dart. I'll take 1 inch. At the waist area, I'll also take 1 inch on both sides at the waist area as well. So after doing that, I'm going to connect the marks together. You also mark it down to where I have the allowance, because it's part of the pattern. So once that is done, I'm going to connect at the middle point there. Now you come down by 1 inch. You can come down by 1.5 inch. So the more you come down, the more prominent that bust area is going to be. So I'm just going to be using 1 inch, and I will use my pencil to make a rough sketch around there. Now on that other part, you also connect it to the dart leg, so you can see what I have. So I'm going to use my curve ruler on both sides at the under bust to where I have the bust point. So you can see what I have here now. So I'm going to extend this part. Okay, I'm just going to use my marker to highlight it now. Okay, and the part that falls to the side, okay, I'm going to connect. I'm going to come out by 2 inches. That is, I'll extend it by 2 inches so that it won't be shorter than the other side. So you can see what I did. So after doing that, I'm going to reconnect the armhole. So you should have something like this after reconnecting the armhole. So the next thing is to take our body measurement. I'll take the quarter of my bust plus the dart intake plus the sewing allowance, okay, and that 1 inch dart intake we took away from here, because obviously it's going to shorten your armhole measurement, so you need to add it back to your allowance. Now at the under bust, you also mark your under bust measurement plus the 2 inches dart intake and 1.5 inch for joining allowance, and you repeat the same thing at the waist line. So once that is done, I'll just go ahead now and connect all of the points together. Okay. You're also going to mark it down to where you have the allowance, because it's part of the measurement. So I'll go ahead now and mark all of our lines together. It doesn't matter the shape you have, just go ahead and mark it together. So now once you've done that, at the waist area, I'm just going to curve it in by 1/2 inch, because you know the measurement at the waist comes out than every other measurement. So in order to avoid it being sharp, so that's why I curve it by 1/2 inch. So yeah, that is what we have. The reason why I added that 1 inch allowance is because of the princess that we are cutting, because by the time you take away 1 inch at the armhole area, it will affect the length of your fabric. So after cutting, once you join the front and back together, if you have any excess at the front, you can just go ahead and cut it off. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now is to determine our neck area. So I'm going to be using 7.5 as the neck depth. Okay, and I will use 4 inches as the neck width. So after that, I'm going to use my curve ruler to mark the neck together. So once that is done, if you want to leave your pattern as a princess that bustier right now, you can leave it the way it is, but we are making corset. So what I'm going to do now is at that neck area, I'm going to be marking 1 inch inward as bust separation. When you open it, you have, I'll mark half an inch inward. When you open it, you have 1 inch. Okay, so this is the half an inch that I'm marking. I'm just going to rule it so that we can see it very well. So after marking the half an inch, I'll take my curve ruler now and connect it to the under bust area. Just watch what I'm doing. Okay, so once that is done, I will also come to the side of our pattern where I have the quarter of my bust. I will mark what I have around there. From that quarter of my bust to that corner, half of it you mark it out, and then you also place your curve ruler and curve it from there to the under bust and up to where we have the new armhole area. Don't worry, by the time you join it together, everything will fall back in place. So you can see this is very easy to make. So for the neck, if you don't want the neck to be this deep, you can just, you know, improvise. You can do anything you want. I'm just using my pencil to mark what I want. You can use your armhole curve. You can create a sweetheart neckline just like this. Okay, and you can use your free hand. Just do whatever you want around there. So I'm just going to use my pencil to do a rough curve, a rough sketch, and then I'm going to use my marker. So you can see this is what I have after using my marker, and I'm going to cancel this other part. So around the shoulder, I want this particular pattern to be sleeveless, so I'm going to be taking half an inch away at the shoulder area. So after taking the half an inch away, I'll connect it back to this dart leg. Okay, this dart leg, I'll connect it back to it. All right, so I'll cancel this other part. So I'm going to be adding half an inch for joining allowance to the shoulder area. Okay, now when I'm cutting the neck, I'm also going to be leaving half an inch allowance for turning the neck of the fabric with the lining. So I'll be doing that when I'm cutting it on the fabric. Okay, so right here our pattern is ready. I'll just go ahead now and cut this out. So the side front is going to be on fold. This particular place here is going to be on fold, do not forget. So right here I'll cut the rest. Okay, and you're going to be adding half an inch sewing allowance to all of these parts, all the places where you cut off the dart. You're going to be adding sewing allowance here on this part here. Okay, you'll be adding sewing allowance around here. You had sewing allowance everywhere you cut off, all the places you cut off the cups and the darts, you'll be adding sewing allowance to it. So right here is my back pattern, and I've drafted everything the same thing I did at the front, just that at the back we'll be using a straight dart. So I took half an inch on both sides of the dart at the waist and under bust. Okay, so I'm going to be removing the zipper bulge of half an inch at the waist and at the under bust, and I'll connect it together and also slant it upward. So after doing that, I'm going to be cutting this part off. Okay, you'll be cutting this part off. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to take the body measurement. Okay, you take the body measurement. Now the neck depth for the back, I use 2 inches and I use 4 inches for the neck width. You're also going to curve the lower part of the waist just as we did for the front. So I'll add half an inch joining allowance to the shoulder area, and I'm also going to reduce the shoulder by half an inch because we are making a sleeveless gown or top. So I'll connect it together like this. Okay, so I'm also going to cancel this part away. So on the neck area, when you are cutting, make sure you had half an inch joining allowance to the neck area. So I'll just go ahead now and cut this off. So right here is our pattern. I've gone ahead to use the pattern paper to cut out the fabric, and I'll be cutting the lining as well. So here is the end of this tutorial. In my next video, I'm going to teach us how to sew all of this together. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider to subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up so that YouTube can recommend my video to a wider audience. Thank you guys for watching this video to the end, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm going to see you guys in my next video. Bye.